Yeah. All right, let's go.
Right, all right, here we go. Umoya ulight, umoya ubright. Welcome to Moya live streams. If you have not already, please subscribe to Moya podcast on YouTube. It's a wonderful community where all views are welcome and where we give platforms to things you might not necessarily see on mainstream media, like Mr. Khustaz. So last week we had the Ramaphosa Must Fall protest out at the union buildings, and you were leading that protest. So welcome and thank you. And I can assure you that you were representing quite a number of people.
Thank you very much, NZ. And of course, look, what we do because we love this country. And of course, we want to conscientize people that they have enough power, they have enough strength to actually topple the government. But of course, that's not what we're seeking to do. But I'm just suggesting that we're ordinary guys who decided, you know what, we are tired. Let's just do something to change the situation. And we will change the situation. It's just a matter of time.
So, I'm worried because they do watch my things and they interfere with network when I'm doing work such as this. So we must pack in as much of the information, important information now in the beginning.
Yes.
So tell us why Ramaphosa must fall. How did you get to that point? What was it all about?
Well, South Africans don't need introduction to the failure of President Cyril Ramaphosa as a leader. We've been observing him since 2018. And of course, last year there were also general elections that demonstrated that South Africans are actually tired of him. He sits today in that position because he has been propped up by the Democratic Alliance. He does not sit there because the majority of South Africans voted for him. He sits there because the DA has propped him there. So he's a failed leader. And it saddens me when I see job losses. It saddens me when I see corruption increasing exponentially. We thought that state capture ended, but yay, a different kind of state capture has risen again, and the results are everyone to see. So we are saying President Cyril Ramaphosa is a leader that does not care anymore. You know, a person who's in the job who they don't want to be there anymore. He doesn't care anymore. So we want them to give him a message. So look, we can see that you don't care much about this country, probably because you're rich, you have made your friends very rich. So you don't care much about what's going on. You want to be pushed to do things. So we decided, let's go to him and tell him actually how we feel, because clearly if the people around him are not telling him, someone needs to. So he's a failed leader. He has not led us to prosperity. What is prosperity when I'm thinking? Prosperity means you live in a safe country. You can get a job. It means that you can afford the bills that you're supposed to pay. So President Cyril Ramaphosa has not achieved any of those things. So we are saying that to the people of South Africa, you have enough strength. All you need to do is just get a courage. We've been talking forever. It's time for action.
Sure, those are quite strong words. So we saw you handing over a memorandum there at the union buildings. Unfortunately, that is where our live stream got cut, and that's where the meat was. So do you
Yes.
mind taking us through all the points that you put out for him to look at?
Right. In our demands, the first demand was that we demanded him to account for the loans that he has borrowed from the European Union. And I think for South Africans, they need to understand one or two things. President Ramaphosa, in a space of 6 months, he had gone to Europe twice already. The last one was a 240 billion rands loan. We don't even know the terms and conditions of those loans. We so happen to see them in the European Union website to say that actually these loans are going
Whoa.
to just energy transition, yeah, and also they're also going to pharmaceuticals and transport and so on. So we do not know the terms and conditions of these loans. So we are looking in South Africans literally in the dark. Parliament is not even asking him the question to say, hang on, what are the terms and conditions of these loans? But we've got a history of what the loans from the World Bank have done on the closure of Komarti. We understand that those loans were not used to uplift the people of Komarti. Instead, they were given to consultants, and then the money went bounced in South Africa and went back to Europe via European countries. So I'm suggesting to you that the borrowing of Ramaphosa must stop. The second one, we wanted him to separate state security. State security is not...
Wait, before you go to the second one, go to the second one, because you are more well-read and researched on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What are you saying when you talk about Komarti? What are you saying about the money? What is this money? What happened? What are you saying about these loans?
Right. Most people need to remember one or two things about Komarti. Komarti was a power station that was closed in 2022, October. By April of that year, that power station was pumping, it was 1,000 megawatts. I think by July, it was pumping 600 megawatts. By October, it was closed. So it's not a power station that failed or it was beyond repair. It was a power station that was closed to promote the just energy transition. Now, you don't close Komarti a 1,000 megawatts power and replace it with the 150 or 115 megawatts power of solar. The numbers don't add up. So let's first watch so that people can understand. The World Bank gave South Africa, I think, over $1 billion, if I recall correctly. I think it was about $1.4 billion, if I recall, to close Komarti, right? Now, that money was supposed to have been used to uplift the people around Komarti. It never did. So we do not even know what Eskom did with that money. That money today is being paid back by South Africans to the World Bank for what we did not see. Instead, in Komarti, they put in microgrids, right? So it was in 2023, sorry, when the executive at Eskom, I think a gentleman called Vivian, I forgot his surname, came on radio station, I won't mention the name, and said they understand that what happened in Komarti was an injustice. So this was Eskom admitting that the closure of Komarti was an injustice. Do you know how many people lost jobs in Komarti and the related economy there? That town flunked. Even this year, Eskom went back to trying to revive that place. So in that nutshell, I'm painting a picture of a money that was meant for just energy transition that was not used for just energy transition because it was supposed to be a just energy transition, meaning the people who have lost their jobs get capacitated so that they can be economic active again. People of Komarti today are not economic active. So we're preventing that type of a failure or of an injustice that happened in Komarti. So the borrowing by Ramaphosa from the European Union is an act of treason, so to speak, because the European Union don't care much about South Africa per se. All they want is to make sure that their generations are sorted. So locking South Africa into a cycle where we cannot be free. So we'll be paying these debts for years to come. Ramaphosa will be comfortable or possibly dead, but we'll be paying for that. So those loans are a serious injustice to this country and to the future generations because they don't meant to help the country. That's very important.
What do you mean when you say that those very same loans went back to consultants and back to Europe?
Right. This is what happened. Spain, this was Spain, for example. 2 years ago, Spain gave it said that they were giving money to South Africa. It was about 2.3 billion euros. But when you read down to how Spain did it, they did not give it directly to Treasury of South Africa. It went to Spanish companies who were in South Africa bidding for IPPs. You're right? So the money is given as if it's a South Africa's money. No. It's not South Africa's money. It goes to European companies who later take it back to their home countries and still make profit out of South Africa for 20 years. So this is what people need to understand. The just energy transition is such a scam of a policy because these private companies cannot make profit on their own. So they rely on Eskom tariff to increase for the 20 years. So the government has given these European companies a guaranteed profit of 20 years. Who runs a business like that? In return, the government gave them guarantees of 400 billion. Now, let's simplify this. 400 billion of South Africa's money is locked up in these European companies who are in South Africa with IPPs. Now, it's a money that has already been set aside. It's not that it's not there, it's there. It's ring-fenced to make sure that these businesses, possibly, if they collapse, the government foot the bill to the market, because they'll go to the market with a guarantee. They go and borrow money at Standard Bank.
They definitely had to.
Yeah, sorry for that. Sorry. So they go to the Standard Bank and say, I want to borrow 1 billion. And then Standard Bank said, what is the guarantee? They say the guarantee is the South African government. Yeah, so they get the money. I'm using the Standard Bank as an example. Standard Bank would give this company 1 billion, and then the guarantees would be the South African government. So that money has already been set aside for these companies not to fail. So for these companies not to fail, they need to be guaranteed profit. So any other company that needs to be guaranteed profit, it means it cannot succeed on its own, independently. And this is such an injustice, because the media of South Africa does not say this the way that I'm saying it. Because if you were to say the way that I'm saying it, it will expose the, how can I put it, the failure of government to take care of South Africans' finances. Yeah, and this policy of IPPs has to come to an end. So in a nutshell, that's what we are talking about here.
Okay, so that was point one. Then the next point on the demand.
I've lost you, Densiki. I can't hear you. I'm telling you, I can hear you. Dang.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, you can hear me, right? I mean, I can hear you.
Yes.
It can't be. It can't be.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I was going to say, if we're on radio, let's take a break. Okay. Do me.
Yes. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you just speak to me in comments, please? And let me know if I'm audible, at least to you. I would also want to cut that if I was the government. You know that my devices have definitely got grabbers on them. We all know this very, very well. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, so I'm just gonna wait for Khustaz to log back on. Oh my God, guys, what are we hearing? What are we hearing, guys?
There you go.
Let me add it back. There we go.
Now I can hear you. Yeah. Let's keep going.
So you are now on, because you explaining point one, which was that we want accounting for all the loans that have gone out, and now we just found out that the loans end up in European hands anyway.
Yes.
Now next point.
Okay. The next point. Let me just probably just follow this with you so that I can. Let me just go here.
I can't believe what
we wanted him to. Yeah, we wanted him to move state security out of his office. Now, state security is a department that is meant for the security of the country internally and externally. So what RAMAPHOSA has done, he has taken it to his office. So by taking it in his office, what he has done, he has disabled, call it the strength of state security. So when you look at the incursion of the state in terms of criminals, take your pick, whether going to Umtunu, whether going to Tembisa, state security was supposed to be one department that takes care of these interests domestically, but also outside was supposed to make sure they secure the borders of South Africa. In terms of making sure that there are no foreign threats that come from outside. So it's not a defense department.
And I'm sure now he's got grabbers on his phone too. Now we can.
Are you back? Yeah, look at you back.
Okay, we're back. Yes. You're unpacking why the state security is not for him personally.
If you don't mind, let me continue while your line is not going well. Tell me if that. Okay, I'm struggling to hear you, but while you're working on your line, let me just maybe possibly tell the listeners as we continue. So we requested that the president to remove state security from okay, so we requested that the president remove state security from his office to allow it to be independent. Now, the purpose of that was that there has been such a huge or high number of personal interference of within the state security that rendered it literally incapable. I mean, if this lady who was in Chaveni can say that they are monitoring people trying to overthrow the country and doing nothing about it, that tells you that the state security functions have been disabled. And we think that if you remove that department out of his office, then what it will do, it will always to make sure that they do the job at their best without having to worry about exposing the presidents who sit in the office. If, for instance, they find the data that implicates him, they can deal with it. So instead of showing the data or document and send it straight to him to say, I buried this one. So the closeness of the security to the president is a risk for South Africa as a whole. But not only that, it then allows even foreign incursions, so to speak. We can't have borders open like this and drugs coming in and out into the country without the security money being able to monitor things. So those are just the risks that we are facing. Ziggy, let me pause there. Are you back or you're still there with me?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can't hear me.
Ziggy, are you there? Okay, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Let me do this.
Really, what's going on?
My God. Okay, here.
Okay. Oh, there's a message that's a keep on truth. Okay. All right. Let me go through the demands. If people can hear me, then that's good. Right. Let's continue there. Now, under job creation, we suggested this one is linked to point number one. On job creation, we suggested that instead of ring fencing the 400 billion to IPPs, now it's important that people understand one or two things. IPPs don't even employ more than 1 million permanent people today, and yet they are backed up at excess of 300 billion, almost 400 billion worth of guarantees. If you loosen that money, don't ring fence it for a private companies. Instead, use it for the South Africans in terms of giving that money to South African businesses. We can find the models of this. But if you free 400 billion rands out of the ring-fenced IPP's money, what you can do is that you can channel that money to South African businesses who can employ more than 1 billion. Now, I always use an example. When people say 1 million, I use one example of a company in the Northern Cape. And this is important, guys. This company in the Northern Cape today has about just over 500 megawatts of solar. And yet, I read it correctly. Those guys are backed up by the state at 12 billion. So they went to borrow only 4 billion, which is a 16 billion rand project. So a 540 megawatts a solar power plant in South Africa, 540 would cost you about 16 billion. So this company, a Norwegian company, went to borrow only 4 billion, right? And then and then the South African government gave them a guarantees of 12 billion. So what can you do with the 12 billion? It's a lot of money. That company today doesn't even employ more than 100 permanent employees in that company. After having been having been propped up at 12 billion rands. What can you do with the 12 billion rand in the township, for instance? You can do a lot of things. What can you do with 12 billion in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, in Northwest? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So that money that is ring fenced now for this company, right, should at least be freed and says, look, well, why don't you take care of your own guarantees and we don't have to actually give you an assurance from Eskom of 20-year profit, because no business runs like that, right? You want to work as a business like everybody else does, which means to hustle, go look for your clients, put your lines from where you are coming from to where you want to end. In that way, it's a fair business proposal to say, you do your hard work, you do your hard yards, and you make sure that you work to earn the money fairly instead of relying on Eskom tariffs. Eskom tariffs today increase because they need to prop up this power purchasing agreement. It's called PPAs. So we wanted them to end this and free this so that that money goes and be pumped back into other sectors of the economy of the country. Right. So we suggested that those 400 billion guarantees must be given to local businesses. They will create more than 1 million permanent jobs. Another thing that we had asked. Now, this one is very sensitive. We all have been aware of what happened in Parliament when the university.
Way, some loser. But apparently you guys can still hear me, correct? Correct? Please, audience, let me know. Can you hear me? This is so deep, man. This is so deep, man. This is so deep. This is exactly what we thought was going on. All right, much better.
I'm back.
Yay. You must just keep checking the screen when we lose each other. I'll just keep posting the questions, because here the one question is that the Norwegian company that got this deal, are there any like local partners?
No, I'm not aware of that. I don't have those details. The only details that I know about is that as a company, they went and borrowed 4 billion. They brought 4 billion in their own, and then of course they went to the market to borrow the 12 billion. But that 12 billion was just guaranteed by the South African government. That's the only information I know. In terms of the BEE and stuff like that, I have no clue. Oh, by the way, they're still in the Northern Cape. So I'm sure they might take a call or two to answer to that, to say whether, do you have a BEE on this matter? But I do know that the solars that they used, they were not purchased, they were not built in the country, right? They were purchased overseas and they were brought into the country. When in fact, we were supposed to be building our own solars, which boost our jobs so that we can fund this sector. Now, Ibrahim Patel is to blame for that because he's the one who actually let it get away. But it's a conversation for another day.
Then my other question was that if the state security is in the president's office, does it not then suggest that the president knew about everything unfolding in the Madlanga Commission?
That's a very good question. The president is aware of everything. And for him to wake up in Brazil and pretend he didn't know, he was just lying. President Cyril Ramaphosa has got a bird's eye view of the country. He gets updated on what's going on. So he knew very well what was going on in the Madlanga Commission. The mere fact that he came on that day pretending that he did not know, he was lying, because we now know from ad hoc committee, he was told months ahead. This is just one example. He gets told things in advance and he doesn't act until they leak. For Mkhwanazi to do what he did is because he could see that the state president was not acting. So there is some truth in that, to say he knows everything. He's actually complicit to the damage of this country, but it's a conversation for another day.
Okay, fine. The next, back to the demands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Back to the demands. Right. Now let's talk about what happened in Parliament, and this is the next one. We requested the Parliament the President to issue a directive to all government department SOPs, including universities. Take note of that. That must prioritize the hiring of qualified South African citizens for all scarce skills. Now that's important before applying for foreign quotas. Now I need to add it with the next demand so that we link it together when we discuss. We also requested the President to issue a directive reducing the quota of hiring foreign nationals from 15% educational institutions to 5%. And furthermore, there must be a reduction of foreign nationals in private sector, such as retail, hospitality, services, and station. Now, let's just sum it out to people. What is happening in South African institutions, even in private businesses now, is that the number of foreigners is increasing. So what they do with these foreigners, they naturalize them. So, but let's take, for instance, universities. There is a quota that is listed on I think on all universities that says that 15% must be international. Now, that process does not work very well, because what these foreign nationals do is that they get hired by a South African, by me. And instead of returning the trust that I've given to him, he goes and put his friend from Zimbabwe. He does not take another South African citizen and put him here. You see, so South Africans, in their kindness, see this guy qualified and everything and says, I come in, work for us. But when in his power, he does not return the faith by saying, you know what, I'm going to choose a South African student here that I'm going to run with. He goes and phones in his countrymen and says, guys, come along. So the 15% quota has created a big problem for the heads of universities, because Parliament is starting to ask, particularly Patriotic Alliance, is starting to ask these questions to say, hang on, you are now excluding qualified South Africans in favor of these foreign nationals. And then you say that we have the responsibility to use international guys. So it doesn't work that way. So it disadvantages South African citizens in their own country. And then under the auspices that, look, we need to have 15% or call it international exposure. So that's what the crux of the matter is. So qualified South Africans who are absolutely good at what they do, they don't get chosen because the next guy goes and pick up his fellow friend and says, come along. And then when they get into South Africa, they get naturalized. Guess what it becomes? It's no longer a foreigner anymore, right? So there's this high increase of foreigners in universities. And when you look at them, they are called naturalized South Africans. There's a problem there. So the president, we must reduce this, because I can tell you that no country in the world can survive if we are going to make sure we are just a, what do you call it, a bread basket of Africa. We're not a bread basket of Africa, right? We're a bread basket for South Africa and for South African citizens. So they must be prioritized at home. So this is not xenophobic, so to speak, but it's to be patriotic. And South Africans need to learn to be patriotism. Guys, where are you buying your food in your shop today? Why don't we just ask, why can't you just go to your own guy, to your own South African, to say, you know what, ShopRite is my shop, is a South African shop, it employs my people. Other nations are doing this in huge numbers. If you enter that country, they are going to look at you, they say, no, I'll look for my own. Jews are doing it very well. Greeks are doing, in this country, Jews are doing the same thing. They trade with each other the most. So guess who does not trade each other the most? It's black South Africans, right? And I'm suggesting to you to say, there's something wrong here. Yeah, so the government, the president, this, by the way, is within his scope. It's not outside of his scope. He has the power to say, guys, let's reduce this. This is not working. Yeah, so those are just the two that I wanted to address. I don't know whether there's a question. You let me know. And then I can keep on going to the next one.
It is a big deal, what you're talking about, because, there is a huge fight, it's not even a debate, between the Afrophobia narrative and the narrative of Operation Dudula, And when we keep it real and we tell the honest truth, the foreigners are taking South African jobs. It is a big deal. It is an issue. They are. Okay, we can go to the next one.
Yeah, the next one is under the corruption, crime, justice, and security headline, so to speak. Hey, guys, I don't know how can I put this to you. The SIU has done an incredible job. Now, we asked the president to issue a proclamation on housing. Okay, let's read this. We asked that the president to investigate national and provincial housing allocation lists for major housing projects. Take your pick. That would be the mega housing in Alexandra in Johannesburg. Okay, let's simplify it. There is a list of people in South Africa that are due for RDP houses. Do you know how corrupted that list has become? Now, we asked the president to do an SIU proclamation there, because what has happened is that those houses have now been given to foreign nationals. It can't be, guys. It can't be. NPA is so useless that even if they were to ask to investigate, they wouldn't. Okay, so to prosecute, they don't want to do it. So SIU is the one remaining institution that is functioning very well. Now, guess what happened? It does its job, collect the evidence. Guess who becomes a problem? Is the NPA that doesn't want to prosecute the people linked to SIU proclamations. So the list of housing in South Africa is extremely corrupted today. Now, this demand came from one organization actually in Gauteng that says the housing list is no longer shows South Africans, so to speak. It shows foreign nationals. Guys, it can't be. Now, those foreign nationals have IDs. Make no mistake, they've got IDs. So they are South African citizens, so to speak. So these are not the people that don't have citizenship. These are people who are actually on the list, but they've got the IDs. So then you get to see the scope and the depth of corruption that is in the housing projects. So an SIU proclamation can be done that, but I doubt he's going to do it anyway. Let's continue to the next one. Guys, okay, for those who are unaware, the president in the office, there's a council. called a National Anti-Corruption it's NAF, National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council. There we go. National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council. That council suggested to him that he must create a Chapter 9 institution on the backbone of SIU that allows SIU not only to collect them, but to prosecute, to investigate and prosecute. That Chapter 9 institution would be called the Office of Public Integrity. Now, guess what President Ramaphosa has done? He has sat on that report for months. You know why? Because they understand that if SIU were to actually prosecute, bypassing the NPA, a lot of people are going to go down. So this Office of Public Integrity will be based on the strength of SIU, because remember, SIU has already got people that are sharp, qualified, good detectives, everything. It's got the structure. The only thing it doesn't have is to prosecute, and that's the gap left to NPA. So while the NPA is highly infiltrated, SIU, okay, this National Anti-Advisory Council said to the president, establish Chapter 9 institution with immediate effect under the backbone of SIU. Guess what he has done? He hasn't done that. Now, this is not a president who seems to care about fighting corruption, because if he did, by now, as far as early as July, he would have said, you know what, I'm putting in this thing. SIU, we are turning you around. You're no longer just to investigate and give to NPA. NPA is corrupted. Why don't you just investigate? Why don't you just prosecute these people? You've got the evidence. Mahumela would have been charged today if that office would have been established. So that office has enormous powers to go around and the Hawks to go around the NPA and go straight to court. And this is something that Ramaphosa isn't keen on doing. Anyway, let's continue with the next one. Let's go to this. The next one was that we asked the president to make sure that SANDF is capacitated. Guys, let's be honest. What happened in DRC is a shame and is an injustice, because the South African soldiers serve people of South Africa. They went there. To this day, we don't even know what they were doing in DRC. We were told it was a peacekeeping, but it was not a peacekeeping. Because in a peacekeeping, you don't shoot people. And the SANDF was busy being shot around there. So they were propping up Tshisekedi, so to speak, on behalf of who? Only God knows who. But the embarrassment of the South African National Defense Force, that is why even today I can tell you right now, if there were to be an uprising, the South African Defense Force would never defend Ramaphosa because he embarrassed them. And I said to that they are right not to defend him. This guy is not a fully commander-in-chief. So we are saying to him, why don't you make sure that you're in good terms with the military by giving them the resources? Now, he can tell Parliament, he can write to Parliament, he can motivate to Parliament, he can tell the guys, give these guys whatever that they need. Our country, guys, is so exposed to a point that even Rwanda has been able to take its chances. For people who don't understand what I'm talking about, Rwanda's Paul Kagame would not be so defiant against a country that he knows he can lose. It's because they saw what they did in DRC. And then all of a sudden, the aura that South Africa used to have doesn't have it anymore. Because of who? Because of Ramaphosa. So guys, this guy has cost us dearly. So I'm suggesting to you that we're asking him to capacitate. Do you think Ramaphosa is going to do that? I mean, let's be realistic. He is going to look at that and say, no. No. You see. And then the next one, we said, guys, the bust that happened in Zimbabwe, that's the next demand. The bust that happened in Zimbabwe was a tragedy. And we say condolences to the people who lost their lives. But the admission out of the presidency that medication was stolen from hospitals, it was being ferried to Zimbabwe and so on. Guys, it's an injustice. So all of a sudden, it vindicated Dudula. So when the government writes, Unchaveni said, we ask all the foreigners to behave themselves. How do you expect criminals to behave themselves, for heaven's sake? Who does that? Okay, so we are asking him to deal with Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has been a problem. And I cannot, Zimbabwe has been a problem in a sense that it has not sent its best to South Africa. It sends the worst. It sends the one who are coming to steal. It sends the one who are coming to destroy our cables. Who come the one who are going Zama's underground. Okay, leave Lesotho for now. I'm suggesting to you is that there are many good Zimbabweans, right? But they get overshadowed, you know, by who? By their comrades who are stealing 70% of medication in Limpopo and ferry it to their country. But in this case, hold on. You can't blame criminals from Zimbabwe. You're going to have to blame the president of South Africa and the Home Affairs for not doing his job. You see? So we must direct the door to the right person. The Zimbabwean woman who is a thief who goes to a hospital is only that's one part of the problem. Hence, we said to Home Affairs, why don't you put in immigration officials at the health clinic? I promise you, because you said you're illegal here. Okay, get the medication. So I'm suggesting to you is that when South Africans are angry against Zimbabwe, they're angry at the wrong person. The problem is is a Zimbabwean government that is propping up criminality in South Africa. Now, here's the thing. The South African guys on the other side are fully invested in Zimbabwe. So they cannot shoot their own, because remember what they're doing. They're just, what is this thing? They're just faces. Behind them, there's criminals who are coming out of Zimbabwe, right? So there's a problem. Do we expect him to respond? Possibly not. But we're just exposing him because it's important that we tell South Africans these things. Okay, fine. Yes, that was then the end of our demands when I'm sick. So I don't know whether there's any question. We expect the president, we expect the president to respond within 14 days. Is it 14? Yeah, 21 days. There we go. 21 days, so we will reach out to him. But I urge South Africans one thing. Guys, us going there is not enough. We could up the stake a little bit more. You have been talking at home. You have been saying these things. But when it comes to a match, you don't show up. Now, I urge you to do, because Ramaphosa would not respect what you say. They will respect what you do. Anyway, let me pause there. Questions over to you.
I'm glad you brought up the march. I mean, how did it make you feel when you know that so many people feel a certain way, but they don't show up when it's time to show up?
No. You need to understand that we only got started now. Our goal was to conscientize, to bring to the fore, to make people start talking, to say, guys, something is wrong. And guess what happened? I think we've achieved that because, look, I don't use Twitter as a benchmark, so to speak. But I'm seeing a lot of people who are saying, guys, I did not hear the first one. But when you do the second one, I will show up. You see, because South Africans are very strong. Guys, we've got enough power. So they might not have heard on the first one, rightly so. But then you have to stay in touch with some of us who are very involved in this. Because when we plan the next one, you must participate. Because Ramaphosa will not respect what we say. He would respect by showing legs on or boots on the ground. If we show up as 10,000, you know, Ramaphosa would actually address the nation that day. All we need is just 10,000 the next day, not the next day, or maybe the next day, we need 20,000. And guess what happened? We can get 10,000 in Gauteng just alone. I won't mention the other provinces, but I'm suggesting that if we could get just a specific number, Ramaphosa would have to move, because then it means that the tide has turned. So let's go. Let's not end on talking. Let's put in the action. Yeah.
You know, people often say that we love to just blame a person for problems of the country. What makes you so sure that removing Ramaphosa is then going to somehow miraculously fix the issues the country has?
Ramaphosa is the face of a snake. If you cut off the snake, the entire body does not know where to go. So as long as Ramaphosa is sitting comfortably in buildings, criminality expands. When you remove him, criminals don't know who's coming next. So we understand the problem is the system. We understand the problem is the African National Congress, which is an organization infected by a virus. But when you cut off the head of the snake, everybody understands there's this level of uncertainty. Criminals are paranoid by nature. So when we target Ramaphosa, we are very clear that that head of the snake is protecting a lot of people. And guess what happened? When Ramaphosa steps down, we don't want Paul either. But we want that parliament there to show some courage, because Ramaphosa is propped up by Democratic Alliance. And I can tell you this, if Democratic Alliance can have courage and says, let's remove this. We don't want Paul. It forces the ANC back to the drawing board to say, okay, guys, who is then the person? The next person is not Paul. The next person possibly is a speaker. This is by law. But then when people say, we don't want the speaker either, we want someone else, that's what parliament is supposed to do. This is not a crisis, by the way. But it means that the parties in parliament will develop a backbone and not accepting Ramaphosa, who is weak, destroying the country by saying we have no options. There are plenty of options in the country. You see, so I'm suggesting then to you that a consensus leader can be found on an interim basis, until we can get ourselves sorted out. Because right now, ANC, listen, and they're good leaders in the ANC. Aaron Motsoaledi is one of them. But you tell me, do you think that the Aaron Motsoaledi will be able to deal with entrenched state capture that is sitting behind him, municipality on the ground, NEC, at cabinet level? He won't be able to do so. Now, as much as I like him, because he's surrounded by very people that are actually corrupt, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, you know what, let's recall him. Within a week, as soon as he targets the ANC, he recalls them within a week. So we've got a big problem there. I like him. But then who else is coming in? Therefore, we need to find someone who's going to say, guys, maybe for once for a change, not from the ANC. Guess what? It changes the entire picture to say, hold on, because they rely on a presidential protection. When you say maybe not an ANC, then something else, then it changes the entire game. Guess what happened? Maybe state security won't sit in presidency anymore. Maybe because the 400 billion that is sitting there would be cut off and says, listen, pump it back to South African citizens. A lot of things could be freed if we decide to say, let's have the courage. Ramaphosa must go. Paul must not come either. So we have a lot that we can do. We just need courage.
And I was going to say that, when you say that DA is protecting the president at the moment, then that would suggest that means that the president is close allies with DA funders.
Yeah. Well, it's a well-known thing. The CR17 statements, everybody knows. Well, by the way, some of us still have those copies. Now and then we keep on looking at them. We can see them, all of them. Some of them are shouting the loudest today, claiming to be clean. And we can see them on those CR17 campaigns. So yes, that's true. Guys, let's not fool ourselves. Business in South Africa under Ramaphosa has done well. They have done well at the back of unemployment. They have cut jobs to make up for the losses that they had experienced during load shedding. So the business of South Africa is sitting very pretty. Look at the JSE. They are making it. So you're not going to tell me business of South Africa is going to say, guys, Ramaphosa, step down. They won't do that. So we're going to have to work outside of business. Unfortunately, we're going to have to fund ourselves because business isn't coming. And I think you need to be very clear. Business is not coming. Ramaphosa is comfortable. Business are propping him up. Now, here's the thing. Business in South Africa, which grieves me, they have become parasite in nature. They're not investing in people anymore. They are cutting jobs to make up for the shareholders. And guys, we need to say these things because by December, another company is going to go down. So most of our people by December, they would have lost their jobs. But there will be many companies that would have done well. We would become like Nigeria. Certain Shoprite is going to do well. Woolworths is going to do well. Give me the mining giants are going to do well. Take your pick, everybody's going to do well. But you know who's not going to do well? Is a South African worker who is told today, you know what, you can be an HR for 5 provinces. How can an HR manager be able to be responsible for 5 provinces? Guys, there should have been an HR manager in each province. But they're overworking these people from the middle class. So I'm suggesting to you, don't look at business as incoming. So we have to do this the hardest way. And you know what the hardest way is? We're going to have to mobilize amongst each other and find a vehicle. Here's the thing. A vehicle that is not corrupted. A vehicle that says, you know what, these guys we can trust to lead. They're not going to be corrupted. They're not going to be bought by money. Or they've got at least a bit of a pedigree that says they've been around. They've not been bought. And even if they were to be bought, they won't steal the vehicle down. You understand? So we're going to have to make it the hardest way. And believe me, it's going to be a long, challenging. Don't look at business. They're not coming.
Sure. And I'm so glad you made this point because we just had a live stream just now, and one of the speakers said that the good people, the real Black excellence has never really been engaged because they didn't want to get their hands dirty because it's so corrupt. But now we've gotten to a point where those good Blacks actually have to stand up and take back our country from these imigulugut. So
yes.
Yes, I'm listening.
Let me let's just step in there. Yabona guys, the middle class of South Africa has been squeezed out. And I so wish that they also show up, because the middle class is the one that runs the country. Instead of pursuing personal greed, just be for you and your children and your husband and your wife. Guys, there's more to South Africa than this. You know, you're not born just to be a husband at home for your 2 little children. What about your country? You run this country, by the way, but the government doesn't even give you a relief on tariffs. By the way, you know, when we went in 2023, the government gave tariffs to the townships and guess what, to the rural areas. Do you know why? It's because the government fears those people. And they know that when those people stand up, they stand up hard. We didn't get anything for the middle class. And it grieved me. And I was willing to fight until I got a call from Cape Town and said, Khustaz, hold on, you've won. It's enough. Meaning that until the middle class start to say enough is enough. Guys, I cannot urge you enough. If you are part of the middle class, you live in a flat in the suburbs, you're not going to get a relief from ESCOM. But if you live in the township, you stand a better chance. So if you live in a flat in Midrand, like me, I can tell you right now, is 18.65% for you. You see, I'm suggesting to you that because the government is not scared of Khustaz, but I can tell you it would be scared of my mother. It would be scared for people who come from a township. Because they know that when those people say we are grounding to the halt, the entire township goes to a standstill, nobody works. I still have to see a suburb that is locked down, where the government says, hang on, nothing is happening in that suburb. The day we do that, that's the day the government is going to see that, yes, the suburb of Midrand doesn't take crap. Let's treat them nicely.
The day we shut down Sandton and go
there. The day you shut down Sandton, they would know, guys, there's a new kid on the block. Middle class have woken up. So I encourage that to say, no, let's not just, it's easy to pump in money into these things. Here's the money, Khustaz, go. But no, but I need your boots. I need you to come with me. You know, I'm willing to fight. I can go to the township and take Amanda, but you're in the suburb now. Why don't you just show up just once? Please. You know, if you want to fight for ESCOM next year, just join us, you know, so that that's what we intend to do. But all in all, I'm suggesting that the middle class can play a role, and a huge role, because this calling is for them to say, guys, it's your time to stand up. Thank you.
Totally. Hey, my birds always get so excited when there's spiritual energy in the air, and this conversation is really clearly quite provoking them. Also, just a disclaimer, we're not inciting violence, we're not inciting anything. This is just an open discussion on how are we going to get our country back from the Mgulugudus, the Hoshkari mamas and Hoshkari papas, because we can see that things are a mess and it's not how we want it to be. Khustaz, I know you're so late for work, by the way. Did you look at the time?
Well, keep pushing, I'm already late.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, when we look at solutions, like you were starting to talk about the possibility of a president outside of the ANC, which I think is the answer. I definitely think that there's nothing left in ANC. Like, we can't look at ANC for leadership at all. They were just a bunch of greedy people who ate, and they've got enough money to make themselves look good and pay the PR and buy the weaves and stuff, but they are not leaders at all. In fact, they're just disgusting people when we're speaking honestly. So, where should we look? Is it a time for Juju? Where do we look? Is it a time for a female? Personally, that's what I feel like it's a time for. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are very simple. Guys, we need a new culture. In our politics haven't served us very well. We need a vehicle that would go and choose or take someone from private sector without credentials, simply because they've done well, and give him a department to run. So I'm suggesting that from the current...
Oh, there you go again, Khustaz, we lost you again.
What becomes then critical is this, is that they've got pockets of excellence amongst themselves. They've got pockets of excellence. And that's not good enough. So the change of the system, I understand it will take long, but we must congregate leaders who are ethical under one vehicle, if you want to use that word, vehicle. And then we go to South Africa and say, guys, here's a vehicle, these guys are ethical, right? Now, in this case, to be ethical, you don't have to be educated. And let me correct that very well. So I'm suggesting that a new crop of selecting politicians has to be on merit. On merit, whether you're ethical, you might be at the Lokshin, for instance, without not so much great education, but you can be ethical. Because there are a lot of educated people who have got no ethics. Yeah, so then I'm suggesting to you that we have to start a new political culture that says we are going to bring you in our party because you are ethical. Yeah, we're going to bring you because you're a good leader. We're going to bring you because you've done well running department so and so. Instead of just bringing in any Tom, Dick, and Harry, and then they don't know what to do. So the path to creating a better South Africans is going to be very long. I take nothing away from it. It's going to be very long. The political parties have gatekeeped the system. So Julius, there's a reason why people don't want him. It's because Julius goes to Nigeria. When he comes back, it's like he's drunk on something and simply, how can I use this word? And just sabotage the same EFF. I don't understand it. So I don't think Julius wants to be president of the country, because if he leaves this country and goes to the African continent, he comes back as a different person. We don't want that. We want a absolutely leader that is consistent. If it goes to the African continent, it must speak the interests of South African citizens, instead of picking the interests of other people there, so to speak. So I'm looking in Parliament right now, and I'm thinking there are pockets of good leaders within the DA, there are pockets of good leaders within the FF, pockets of leaders within the Action SA. So it's very, very challenging. The entire political system is rotten. You see, that's the problem. It's so rotten that right now you're like, people are considering Helen Zille. Helen Zille is 74. Are you telling me there isn't a 30-year-old that is ethical? Are you telling me there is a 30-year-old that we can believe who can take over Johannesburg? It can't be. So I have no problem with Helen Zille, so to speak. But I'm suggesting that we can't keep on recycling old people. It's time we look below. Someone 10 years old who's going to be there. Menele Dipando is old. Ndate, who's this? Aaron Mosole is old. He should retire. Helen Zille, she should retire. So we need to look below, guys, and we must be. How can that word? We must give it a chance. Take your pick. Song as Zibi, but Song as Zibi needs to come out across on many issues. Who's this guy? The Bossa guy. I'm not happy with him. I'm not so sure where he sits at the greater scheme of things, because we don't want to naturalize illegal foreigners in the country. We want them deported. We don't want to do that. You have to fight them, get them out, get the criminals out. Don't say, no, let's just naturalize. We don't want naturalization. If you're a criminal, leave the country. Otherwise, we are creating a scenario where the country becomes a country of criminals, because these people didn't come to the door. So we need to then lift up the standard. When a politician says, no, you can't change illegal foreigners, you must do, no, but they're criminals. What are you trying to say? So there's a lot that we can read from there. So if maybe the answer is not so specific to a person who's at home, you got to realize that we need to work the ground. The leaders are there, but they're not being chosen by political parties. So we need then to say to them, let's form one vehicle that will do exactly just that. There we go. One message here said, oh, Vuyo Zungula. Guys, I like Vuyo Zungula. I just don't know why people aren't voting for the guy. And it's so interesting, because he speaks the language that we speak. For some reason, get to the ballot paper, oh, Vuyo Zungula, voted. It can't be, guys. He's just one classic example of a guy who speaks our language, who seems to understand. But the question is, why are we not supporting him? There you go.
Spot on,
Anyway,
spot
back to you,
on.
Nzi.
You know, brilliant point about Vuyo Zungula. There is our president right there, ready for us. Rude,
have you lost me there?
articulate, clean. We like him, you know. But the problem is that South Africans love trash content. So
your
will,
network. Okay, let's try again.
that's right. It's you who can't hear me now.
Okay, try again.
Because you are hanging. Please log off and log on again. Let me tell him there. Log off and on again.
Why are you getting cut, so I can hear?
All right. So just wait. I'm putting a message on the screen.
I don't see.
There we
The
go.
message.
There on the screen.
No coffin, no again. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I was saying that it's wild because there is Zungula. He's ready. He is clean. He doesn't speak dirty. He doesn't bully anybody. He stands up. Exactly what he's saying. He speaks the language. He's also against foreign nationals, but you guys are not behind him. You guys love trash content. Like, you don't like good things for yourselves. Like, Black people in South Africa can't see their own Black excellence. That's what's so traumatic about colonialism, is that the people that you should be hailing, they're there. They're right in front of your eyes. They're right there for you. But you guys want the trash. You want the ones that swear. You want the ones, yes, welcome back. So, Khustaz, yes. You know what I'm saying? I was
saying.
I was saying that, you know, South Africans really love their trash content. That's why you can have a Vuyo Zungula who's right there, right in front of their eyes, but then they'll look around for, right now we've got like
yes.
ex-convicts in government. That's
look,
crazy. It's wild.
Yeah, that doesn't set a good example.
I get this point across. Oh, flip, now it's lost me again. Okay, no, come. Oh God, I really wanted to say this thing, and I've been waiting for you to come back on, and now I've lost it again. Okay. I was saying that in terms of the political parties, what if they actually don't work? What if instead of people saying, I want to lead, what if we chose? Because the people know their leaders. We know who's been doing what in the community. So why can't it be a situation where our elections are us nominating people for leadership? Because the different communities are going to nominate their leaders, and eventually it's going to create a national government eventually. And then in the end, we vote for the one who's most popular for the whole country.
Yeah, well, do you think political parties would accept that? Because it meant then that they don't have jobs, those guys.
That's the problem.
Yeah, so the parliamentary system, it's important for South Africans to understand, is that the current political parliamentary system, they're gatekeeping it to themselves to protect their own jobs. Because what they were supposed to do was supposed to open it up to everyone. It cannot be that, for instance, one candidate.
Oh, there we go, losing Khustaz again.
Okay, I'm back. Look like I'm back.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Got
Ziggy, you let me know if you're back.
Yes, we can hear you.
Back?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But maybe let me just continue. I see a comment. Okay, maybe let me just continue to while this network is still. Look, the current political system, parliament has locked us out. Let's be honest, because it wouldn't allow any of us to go directly there and have an influence. So they've channeled it to a vehicle of a political party system, and I'm suggesting that even that is deliberate, because it was supposed to have been opened up much more bigger, open up to such extent that we elect the president directly, so it doesn't get elected by parliament. So they've gatekept the system to exactly prevent these type of changes that we need. So it grieves me a lot, because right now we want the change. We can do it because the parliamentarians, if they don't agree with us, we are shut down. That's all we can do. So the only thing we can do is to try to make sure we march as much as we can. Only then they will respond to pressure. It's not supposed to be this way. A leader who's failing like RAMAPHOSA should not have sat in that chair for so long. Should have been removed in the first term to say, look, ANC should have said, you know what, you haven't done very well. Thank you very much. Let's put you aside. But they don't want to do that because it benefits them. So I'm suggesting then to you is that if, for instance, we use stand-up SA can be a very great vehicle if people use it. Because it has to be started from an ethical leadership point of view to say, guys, let's mobilize amongst our community, even though we have no intention of entering into a political party. But we make sure that political parties, when they say they are looking for leadership, they can say, I must go to that organization that will take that guy from them because he look like he's ethical. Take from there, from there, from there. So we really would like to be that type of vehicle that says, if you want a guy that is ethical in leadership, you will find them at FENAPSA. Yeah, so in suggesting then to say the current political system locks us out, so it's very difficult to change it until we get the politicians to change the system that allows us to do that. But otherwise, we are locked out.
And once again, it's big business that is funding the politicians. So it's quite interesting. If you remember earlier on, we were speaking about how big business is keeping RAMAPHOSA in place, and the parliamentarians and the politicians in place. So it almost feels like we're fucked. That's what it feels like. I don't know about you guys. Thank you for all the comments that are coming in. You always make it so very interesting. Oh no, the ANC disgusting people, guys. I know. And it's such a mess because now Bega says it. ANC is the biggest and the longest standing African liberation movement. And here we are as Black people now having to tear it down in front of Abelung because of the trash leaders we've had in the past 30 years. Isn't that amazing? That now you've embarrassed all the Blacks, basically, by your leadership. Holla back, yes. So as we wrap up, because I'm sure you did not mean to spend an hour on this conversation. So way forward, and what are you going to leave us with? Right.
Here's the way forward to South Africans. Stand Up SA is a vehicle that's been standing for almost 3 years now. So in the next chapter that we're going to do, remember we had said we're going to reach out to other sectors of community. Guys, we need to reach out to these politicians, political parties, whether it's labor is still very important. But at the same time, we need to mobilize the ground because we're going to come back for round 2. So in this case, we need to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, now the first one, we didn't reach out to many people. Many people say like, no, but this time around, let's go back and reach out to the guys who are influential. Let's talk to these political parties and show them how bad things are. Hopefully they can do. So we're going to be approaching political parties, organize the labor. Believe me when I say we're going to approach business. Even though I was the one who said they're comfortable, we're going to approach them. Because it's important that they become part of this change because we don't want to leave anyone behind. But we need to work the ground. For us, in order for people to support us, we need to work the ground. And right now, we haven't done that. So I'm suggesting, when I say we haven't done that, I'm suggesting that we haven't done enough. We have to go a whole lot more. We need to go to provinces. We don't have the money to do these things. We will do it with a shoestring budget. So Twitter, TikTok, and everything until we get to make sure that we do this thing. So no, it's to work the ground going forward. But change is coming, and I can tell you right now, by next year, at this time, we'd have had something bigger. I don't think RAMAPHOSA will be here by this time next year. But again, let's see how it goes. But we'll push that he's not here next time this year. So, but
besides RAMAPHOSA, can we also focus on the solutions and calling out our real leaders? And can we just be intentional about naming the leaders? Because I can see that the white people don't know us, because to them we all look the same. So they only know RAMAPHOSA, they only know Fikile, they only know Paul, So what the white people need from us now is for us to start naming our real leaders and introducing them to actual Black leaders with integrity who are not ready to be bought.
There you go.
Right?
You could not have said it better. 100% I agree with you.
Thank you, Khustaz, for your time. Keep up the good work, and we will definitely be at the next march. We're sorry we disappointed you last time, but we are coming next time.
Thank you very much. And to South Africans at home, guys, let's have courage. Talking is over. I don't do talking anymore. For me, tell me where to march the next time. I'll show up because talking doesn't help. But all in all, have courage, stand strong, be patriotic to this country, and take care of this country. We don't want to destroy it, we want to build it. So let's build it together. outside of politics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khustaz. Everybody, remember to subscribe to Moya Podcast on YouTube. It's at Nzigi Mazwai for more of this amazing progressive content. We'll see you again